You guys passed along a lot of information that the VA won't, or maybe the VA kind of snuffs out or hides, I guess I should say. When did you guys start realizing, like as an organization, that a lot of the information that vets were getting wasn't the best? Was it just kind of like word of mouth, or was this something that, maybe somebody did some checking into for other people and then kind of realized that that was sending vets down a bad path?
It's both, Brandon. I think the guys who are a lot more intimately involved in it than I am looked at what the VA was offering and, what the feedback was from different veterans and veterans groups, and just kind of realized that there were some holes that needed to get filled. And, I think there's a lot of nonprofit organizations, especially in the veteran space, but, you look at you kind of were talking about like the culture of smoking and whatever. And I was a smoker, and the last thing I wanted somebody was to tell me was to quit smoking.
Yeah. No doubt.
And that's why I think it's great for guys and gals who may want it. Like, if you don't want to quit, dude, just like anything, you ain't quitting. But if you do want to quit, and the resources that are available to you with the VA, maybe fine and good for some people, but I do think that there are some spots that organizations like Smokeless Veterans can kind of fill those holes. Let's go!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to I Came with Fire podcast. Tonight we are here with Frank Luna. We're going to do a little bit of a special episode tonight, talk about Smokeless Vets, and then kind of whatever pops up, man, because we're a couple of vets, and it's easy to talk to one another. So, but Frank, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about what you do, and then we'll jump in and have a conversation, man.
Yeah, Brandon, I appreciate having me on. I live, born and raised out in the Jersey Shore, and over the past few years, believe it or not, we talked the other day, I enlisted in the military. I was 36 when I shipped off to infantry one-station unit training, which was quite an experience. Spent a lot of time working in politics and government before that, really engaged in the community, and do some work with some professional athletes. I do public affairs work during the day. I really spent 7 months living out of a van down in Florida for a while, which was a 1985 Volkswagen van. That was quite an experience, and I just my one buddy calls me like Forrest Gump. Like, I caught a home run at a Yankee game once, a guy's first home run baseball. That was a wild experience, and just kind of had those things, Brandon, that like have popped up in and out. And
have you taken down any presidents?
No, sir.
No? Oh, okay. That's the big one. Forrest Gump took down a president, so.
Yes, no, I have not done anything like that. No, I was not involved in Watergate or any of the controversies since, thankfully.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned Smokeless Vets. I mean, that's an awesome group that's kind of spreading the word about trying to get veterans to, improve their health and habits, and I think that's something. It's a great mission message all around. I mean, we all got those buddies who smoke and shouldn't, or want to quit.
Definitely.
Have gone to the VA and have difficulty with the treatment methods there, and I'm really excited about the work those guys are doing and will be doing over the next couple of years for sure.
Definitely, man. So let's since you brought it up, we'll just talk about it now. Like, where does Smokeless Vets get its start, and what sort of spurned the idea of starting something like that?
Look, I think they kind of understood that there are different ways people try to quit smoking. And, I think in dealing with veterans across the country, and even non-veterans, just regular people who are trying to quit, I think that their approach is a little different than, you might hear the cold turkey approach, or, get off nicotine altogether. I mean, their objective is to get people to quit smoking, and if that means, different nicotine delivery devices, which are, I think, healthier. I'm not a doctor, and I couldn't play one on TV. It's probably the beard. You don't see a lot of doctors with beards like ours.
True. So check your handwriting out. Maybe that'll go.
Yeah, my handwriting's decent too, so I'm kind of screwed on that front. So they're just out there trying to spread the message and working with a lot of different veterans and veteran organizations. I think in part to kind of get the VA to focus a little differently on how they're treating modern day veterans and smokers, and making sure they're using the technology and different stuff that's available to them to quit smoking. So I mean, it's a message. I was a smoker actually when I was a younger guy, and I can remember trying a million different ways to quit, and finally did, and it's just, to me, it's like, dude, you never want to be like a preacher, right? Like that preachy guy, oh, I used to smoke, and I did, and I did smoke, and I smoked a lot, and my health suffered for it in my 20s, and since I quit smoking, and 13, 14 years ago, like, my life has improved, my physical abilities improved, my health overall, my appearance. I know that's a goofy thing to hear about, but I'll tell you what, man. Well, I appreciate that. But look, as a 41-year-old guy, if I'd been smoking the last 15 years, I'll tell you what, I would look a hell of a lot different than I do today. And that sounds a little vain, but it's true. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
The military is no different than any other job, whether you're working as a waiter or you're working at a convenience store. Mm-hmm. You see the guys that smoke, they go outside, they get those 20-minute breaks, and you don't really have a reason to go out and get a break. So they, even then, it's just like entices you to want to start a habit. And I tell you what, dude, I've seen guys, because I was security forces, military police in the Air Force for 14 years, and dude, even cats will get 15 minutes to go walk around the corner from the gate and then smoke a cigarette. And what are you gonna do? Hey, can I go stand around the corner for 15 minutes and not do anything? It almost doesn't have the same ask. The ask doesn't carry the same weight. As they still get these breaks to go smoke, and it's like one of these things where you see that and you want the opportunity to basically get a break. That sort of gets people into smoking. Everybody around you smokes. I mean, what is it that military guys do all the time? They go to the bar, we hang out, people socially smoke, and then that happens. And then the shopette, the BX, PX, whatever, always got cigarettes. Class 6 will sell cigarettes. So it's just kind of one of these things. And even in like pop culture, like John Wayne there on TV smoking a cigarette, all the way back when he was still making movies, And it's just kind of one of those things that is it's a culture in the military, and it's something that a lot of guys leave the service with that habit. And it's honestly a good thing that this has begun, the Smokeless Vets thing. And one of the things that when I talk to some of the other guys that are involved in this, I hear from them is, you guys pass along a lot of information that the VA won't, or maybe the VA kind of snuffs out or hides, I guess I should say. When did you guys start realizing, like, as an organization, that a lot of the information that vets were getting wasn't the best? Was it just kind of like word of mouth, or was this something that maybe somebody did some checking into for other people and then kind of realized that was sending vets down a bad path?
Yeah, I think it was both, Brent. I think the guys who are a lot more intimately involved in it than I am, kind of looked at what the VA was offering, and what the feedback was from different veterans and veterans groups, and just kind of realized that there were some holes that needed to get filled. And I think there's a lot of nonprofit organizations, especially in the veteran space, but you look at you kind of were talking about like the culture of smoking and whatever, and again, like, nobody wants to be. I was a smoker, and the last thing I wanted somebody was to tell me was to quit smoking.
Yeah, no doubt.
But and that's why I think it's great for guys and gals who may want to. Like, if you don't want to quit, dude, just like anything, you ain't quitting. But if you do want to quit, and the resources that are available to you with the VA, maybe fine and good for some people, but I do think that there are some spots that organizations like Smokeless Veterans can kind of fill those holes. And I'll tell you a quick story. I mean, not to change the topic too much, but I'm involved with this mobile food pantry, and it's this organization called Jersey Shore Dream Center. I try to go every Wednesday on my lunch break, and what they do 3 days a week, they deliver food to area motels where people live.
That's awesome.
They're put there for social services. You have a lot of women, a lot of elderly, a lot of disabled people who live in these area motels, often on very limited income. And they, you talk about filling a need where there is one. And this group goes 7 stops every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday each day, different spots. There's one area, it's called Tent City. And, it's not only in New Jersey, but it's startling to go there every single week. And people live in tents in the woods in one of the wealthiest counties in the state of New Jersey. And one of the guys that I just found out literally today, I mean, you cannot make it up. You see him around, he's very withdrawn, doesn't speak much, probably in his mid-30s. You can tell he's got some mileage on him. And, dude, I don't know what made this guy today say this to me. I didn't have veteran gear on or anything, nothing. He said something to me about being in the military.
Right.
And he was in the military. He said something to me about himself being in the military. And I'm standing there in this parking lot of a ShopRite. How ironic is that people live in the woods behind a ShopRite, a shopping center. And I'm talking to this literal homeless veteran, which you hear that on TV so often, right? You see it in the news. But I do a lot of charity work, and I don't meet a lot of unhoused veterans who are living in the woods. They may be in a motel or in their car for a little while because of issues with the family, whatever it is. And I'm standing there, I'm talking to this guy, I'm man, this dude the system failed him. And, you could ask him where he went to, want to vet it a little bit. Hey, man, where'd you go to basic training? What was your MOS? How long did you do? Did you deploy at all? What years were you in? It had every answer that he needed to have for me to realize that this guy's a veteran. Not that I'm checking his DD-214, but, sometimes guys play that a little. And, I'm just standing there, and and it made me think about this group, Smokeless Vets, and just all the organizations that had to fail this guy.
Yep.
For him to end up in the freaking woods with hair down to his shoulders, coming up to get free food. That dude at one point was in the Army, serving his country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
no, it's a shame, man.
It is. It is.
I think that's probably the best thing about organizations like Smokeless Vets is it's veterans taking up the mantle of helping other veterans, because truly no other group is going to care more about us than we are. Yeah. And it's just like any other governmental organization. The best laid plans, right? You can say they have the best intentions in mind, but at the end of the day, it is government work. And people tend to look at the government as a solution for everything. It's not always a solution, and it's not always great. I mean, we both were in the military, and we see how dysfunctional and incompetent that can be. And so when you have people like Smokeless Vets and other veteran organizations helping veterans, that's the best thing. No one's going to understand a veteran better than another vet is going to understand a veteran. And it's a shame to see, especially when you start talking about money and everything going outside of the country to other places, other organizations, other countries and their governments, and then you got people living in the woods behind a ShopRite that served this country. That should be there should be the number one priority for the government to take care of these people. The idea of thank you for your service is become sort of a platitude more than an actual thing, and it's definitely a shame to see it become that, because it doesn't actually the words and the actions don't necessarily follow from the people you would expect it to follow from. And so having organizations like Smokeless Vets, I think, is it, man. That's the way forward when it comes to getting veterans help, whether it's quitting smoking, whether it's mental health, whether it's housing, food, anything like that. That is without a doubt the taking up the mantle for that and then doing it ourselves. That's kind of what the veteran community is all about anyway.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm wearing a shirt I wish I could say it was more planned than it was, but it really wasn't. It was just sitting on my backpack, and I threw it on, and and it's a Ma Deuce Deuce,
right,
which is a local organization at the Jersey Shore. That these guys and this is like a New York Yankees themed T-shirt.
Yeah.
They get season tickets to the local minor league team. They make sure that those tickets are free for veterans and their families. If there's a veteran who they hear about who is getting divorced, and here Brandon, sometimes the stories of veterans, not dissimilar from the stories of everybody, can be a little messy. And there could be some issues in the home and issues at work and drugs and alcohol and just all those things that are messy, that our culture has deemed messy. And, I remember these guys gave me a shout. My cousin's really involved. The guy Dennis who runs it is a friend, and they were telling me like there's a local veteran going through a divorce, and there were some things that the veteran supposedly did or didn't do, and they kind of said like that's not for us to figure out. This guy is homeless-ish, and he needs a couch, or whatever it is, and and like the stories are imperfect. The same, and I'm telling you, I stood in that parking lot today in ShopRite, and I watched the guy walk away with 2 bags of food, and he was walking to a wooded area, and he's like, I got to go move my stuff tonight because I got found by a construction company, and they're going to start working there, and they need me to move out.
Got you.
And I'm like, so I gave him my phone number. I said, dude, like, where are you at? Like, what are you doing? Oh, do you have a phone? And he's like, I have a phone, but I need Wi-Fi to use it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't think of that. I wouldn't, you're not necessarily thinking of that. Like, the dude doesn't have a phone unless he has Wi-Fi. Well, he's living in the woods. He doesn't have Wi-Fi in the woods. He doesn't necessarily look like somebody who would sit in a Starbucks and order an $18 latte and be able to answer emails on his phone if he's got appointments and social services and VA issues. Like, he had no photo ID, but he had his birth certificate and DD-214. So I'm like, bro, here's my number. Like, when you get Wi-Fi, call me up. Like, we'll get you at least a veteran organization intake person who can kind of take you in and see where... He said he doesn't have a disability percentage in the VA. I mean, bro, everybody who was in has a disability rating for the VA.
For sure. Even if it's 10%,
like, Dude, even if it's exactly. He was on a range, so he's going to get that hearing loss. Hearing loss. I mean, like, there's your 10%. There's access to different benefits. Dude, exactly. And I'm not saying he should game the system, but, I'm sure he said he went to VA once since he's been out.
Yeah. Isn't that just like military members in general, though, man? Like, just not wanting to go to medical, And in the long run, it just shoots you in the foot, And I think it's gotten a little better, that culture of discouraging you from going to medical. It's gotten a little better, but it definitely exists still, where if you're showing up, you're going to medical, or maybe you need to take some time to heal a shoulder or a knee or whatever, there's some flack you're definitely going to catch for whatever reason. You're missing PT, or maybe you can't post or something like that, so, but dude, that's just crazy to me that there is so many homeless veterans in this country, and we have all these resources going places that it really doesn't need to be going, and still got guys living in the woods and got to move every couple of days because a construction company found them, or the cops tell them they got to move out, or whatever, man. And hats off to you. And I know that's not why you brought it up, but for trying to hook the guy up. I mean, because it is what it is. Veterans we have to help each other, and I love hearing stuff like that because you never know, too. People out there on the street, if they are, and it's just a shame to see those people struggle. When you were introducing yourself, you said you worked for other political organizations. That's kind of a background. Was any of that in this sphere of trying to help vets or anything like that?
It's interesting. I worked local political campaigns after college, and dude, my dad was a guy who worked with his back until he stopped working. My mother was a hairdresser until she stopped working to raise the kids. It's like a bad Bon Jovi song of like Jersey
Shore love. Hairdresser in New Jersey, right? It's like
a hairdresser,
cliche, man.
Yeah, dude, a hairdresser and a roofer in New Jersey. I'm shocked that met on the Seaside Heights Boardwalk. Exactly, there's a song in there that Bon Jovi has not written yet.
Halfway there,
Yeah, exactly, and. So I just kind of got into it in college. It was around the time of like all the Michael Moore stuff, which after 9/11, and it was a crazy time in the world, and I was in college at the time, and I was like, why are we paying like $75,000 to bring this guy in, and who was saying anti-American stuff, and like I was involved. It was just a wild experience. So, after college, kind of worked in politics a little while. Some of the work, as I got a little bit more engaged, I worked for Governor Chris Christie in New Jersey for a few years. That was a really interesting, really wild experience because, again, a kid from where I grew up, blue-collar, middle-class upbringing. Now I'm, working for the freaking governor of the state of New Jersey.
Yeah,
That was just
probably
a
met a lot of
wild,
crazy people.
yeah, I mean, a ton of crazy people. It was wildly fascinating. Every day was different. Every day was difficult, but really cool. I mean, really, really cool experiences. Then I after that, I worked for a member of Congress. One of my favorite guys I ever worked for, man. Like his name was Tom MacArthur, a Republican guy. Lost the election. I guess that was 2 years into Trump's presidency, kind of that whole blue wave that came in and kind of took out a bunch of Republican members of Congress. And that few years I worked for him was just amazing, man. We dove into a lot of veteran stuff. Going back to the Korean War, we had met some Korean War veterans who had been exposed to Agent Orange before the date that the federal government was acknowledging use or something like I forget the details of it. These guys spent most of their adult lives without the benefits from that Agent Orange exposure.
Right.
Dude, we dove into that issue, and we got it to the point, got the legislation up and going, and I still talk to the guy to this day. His name's Garfield Harper. He's a retired Teamster who lives out in Burlington County in New Jersey, and this guy was fierce, man. He was just exactly what you remember of that generation of Korean War veterans, and just as tough as it gets. You saw the stuff on his skin, from his exposure to that.
Yeah.
And the timing, I don't remember exactly whether. I don't think the law passed and was signed into law while MacArthur was still in office, but a later version of it after he lost was signed into law. And dude, these guys got a ton of benefits, back pay,
That's
like,
good.
and I'm telling you, man, like, if I never do another thing in public life, which I never want to run for office, like, there's none of that in my mind, but like, just doing that and being in the mix on that and seeing those old guys and the way they connected with each other. There was two gentlemen, Garfield and Gene, and they, they're old veterans who had never met each other, but were talking on the phone and emailing back and forth about this Agent Orange stuff. And I don't mean to get into like a boring policy thing, but just watching that whole thing, dude, and watching it develop and watching the relationship. And I remember Garfield gave me, one of his awards from his uniform.
Wow.
And it was a replica of an award. And this was before I was even in the military, so I never really even understood the significance of it until later, and just like, man, like, so yeah, I mean, that type of veteran stuff to me, it was just a really, really meaningful, impactful piece of legislation that, like, you probably never heard of. Most people never heard of it.
I haven't.
Yeah. Yep.
But it kind of makes me think of, again, just how much people have to fight for things like that they really shouldn't have to. Even consider the 9/11 first responders and everything that they had to go through to get health care and help and all that stuff that they were exposed to when those buildings came down. And it's just absolutely insane that they even had to ask. I think about that interview, or maybe it's not interview, but that testimony that Jon Stewart, talking about, gave at Congress when he was shaming them. He said they came here to speak to no one. I watched that clip from time to time because it's just, I mean, you say you're 41, right?
Yeah.
I'm 37, so you're only a couple years older than me, And so you obviously remember what 9/11 and watching that happen, and it definitely means a great deal more to people like us who watched it happen, and even veterans, but especially like versus even some of the younger airmen that I saw come in who were infants or weren't even born when it happened. It means something so much different. So to me, watching something like that, those 9/11 first responders had to go through the red tape and the hoops that they had to go through to get the help is absolutely insane. So hearing stories like that, like what you're just talking about with the Agent Orange thing, it's like these just feel like such no-brainers, and it often seems like the government is so willing to just hand out money for random stuff, and that veterans and 9/11 first responders and anything else that falls in this realm, like you even have to ask, and then go through hoops to ask. It should just be like, you know what? Yep, we fucked this up. We missed this, and thanks for bringing it to our attention. We're gonna make it happen, and then make it happen. It shouldn't take just the level of effort that it does to get stuff like this to happen. It's wild to me and shameful.
Yeah, and look at like the burn pit stuff that
Yep.
dude, that was like a 20-year battle for a lot of people, right? I mean, I don't know.
I'm on it. Good. And if you're a veteran, you're listening to this, or you're an active duty guy listening to this, go. And you've been deployed where there's burn pits, you need to go and you get your name on the list, man. Absolutely. It's there for you. And that's another thing too, bro. Like, there's a lot of veterans, and there are a lot of programs for veterans too, but not a lot of us take the opportunity to go and seek help or participate in those programs. So it's a piece of that too, where you got to go and take advantage of these things as well.
Yeah, and I think again, like, we could talk veteran focus, and that's part of it, but I think in life too, like, there have been times in my life where I needed to take a step and I didn't, or there was somebody's like, hey man, like, you should go this direction. I'm like, I'm gonna go that direction, and you go the other direction, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have gone down this fork in the road, and I've been so fortunate that there's always been something that kind of has brought me back to like a center. And, I think when I'm at my best, it's when I'm focused on something that's not me. Because I'm my favorite subject, bro. I'm my favorite topic. I think about myself all day. I think about what you think about me. I think about what my girlfriend thinks about me. I think about what my girlfriend's cousin's neighbor's brother thinks about me. We all kind of like, it's like, and when I'm out of that and I'm thinking about other people, and I'm thinking about the kid that I met in the parking lot today, and I am telling you, Brandon, I've not stopped thinking about that kid all day.
I'm sure.
Like and I'm a kid. He's probably in his 30s, but now I'm at the age of like 41, so now anybody below 40 is a kid to me. So I guess that's
for sure. Because just like you said, man, like some of these airmen, 18, 19, 20, even 21 years old, and I'm calling them a kid. And if I was a 21-year-old airman back when I was a 21-year-old airman, I would have been pissed if somebody was calling me a kid. Because I'm in the military. I'm not a kid. Yeah. But
dude, that's what it was like when I was at Fort Benning. I enlisted in the Army National Guard at 36. I went enlisted infantry, and I show up to Fort Benning in a Jimmy Buffett t-shirt.
Hell yeah. Setting the vibes already, dude.
Dude, I'm like ready to go, man. I'm like,
hey, Pride, this ain't gonna be no cheeseburger in paradise.
Yeah, dude. And I'm telling you, man, I get off that bus and I'm like, that's nothing, no big deal. And the first drill sergeant sees me and he's like, are you lost? Are you effing lost? And I'm like, and dude, Brent,
this ain't Key West, motherfucker.
Yeah, like, dude, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as God's my witness, and I don't know where this came from. I don't know if it was because I was probably older than the guy. I just like sounded off. I said, no, drill sergeant, just a little bit late.
Oh shit.
I'm like, dude, I'm dead. Like, I'm either dead or like, but he understood what I was saying. Like, I was an old guy. He knew I was an old guy. And that was me kind of acknowledging, like, nah, man, I should have been here earlier, but I wasn't. And that he understood that that's what I was saying. And he kind of stopped and looked back at me and just turned and walked away. And I'm like, all right.
A little bit of respect there, maybe.
Maybe. Or maybe it was just like, this guy's crazy as shit. I don't want to deal with him right now because my shift is over in an hour.
It's so much easier to pick on the 18-year-old than it is to pick on the 36-year-old. Yeah. Not going to intimidate you as easily.
Yeah, and look, I mean, what's funny, like, I don't even know if intimidation was the word for me. It was, like, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was dumb, and I was, like, okay enough to be, like, I was mature enough at 36 to be like, dude, I don't know how to do that, and I need to learn that, instead of, like, me thinking, like, I know how to do everything, like, I was not a great, like, I never really used an M4 before I went in the military. Like, I'd used an AR-15, similar enough, but, like, I never zeroed a weapon on iron sights. You know what I mean? Like, it's so I had this like 19-year-old kid from this hunting kid telling me how to do it. I'm a New Jersey Shore guy. Like, you need me to stand up on a surfpurboard? I could do that. Like, it's
right. You got Bubba from Oklahoma telling you how to shoot.
Bro, literally, like, oh, you gotta do this, Luna. Like, you got you, bro. All right, man, cool. Thanks for the help. Yeah.
How many corn-fed kids from Iowa are there at basic training? You know, all of them. You know, it's just so funny. There's the variety of people you meet at basic is crazy. I had kids that could like just rap on the spot, you know, and then other kids were like, man, you were homeschooled for sure,
Yes.
you know.
Yep.
And it's just, it is the biggest. It's so funny just watching it, and I love it too because it's just proof that anybody from all walks of life can get together and you can succeed together, no matter what your upbringing was, as long as you have that combined mission in your head. You know, you have to be willing to work as a team, and that's totally the brilliance of it that way. I think it just shows, it is 100% like proof. When people try to divide us or divide anybody, you know, it's just like, dude, look, hey, there's a bunch of black kids, white kids, Mexican kids, kids from the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, all getting together, all doing something, training, learning. And dude, tell me I'm wrong when I say, like, when you get out of basic training, like, there's nobody you're tighter with in that group of people that you just went through that with, you know.
And Brandon, it was for us. I'm not trying to be special. I'm not. It's just what it was. It was originally, I guess, the infantry one station unit training was 14 weeks. It used to be for the Army.
Okay.
They jumped it to 22 weeks. As part of my enlistment, and I had a college degree, and everyone kept telling me, dude, you got to go officer. I'm like, nah, I'm going enlisted. I want to be like, and this is all part of like the story of why, you know, I wanted to join after 9/11. I was always that guy who in my mind is like, man, I almost joined, or, you know, if I'm standing there listening to veterans thinking in my brain, like, right. And now I meet, I can't tell you how many how many people I meet now that almost joined, you know, and it's great. It's fine. And I lived that for a lot of my adult life. And for years, I'm like, man, I should have joined. I wish I joined. I didn't join. I should have joined. I had family who was in, my grandfather, my uncles, my cousin. Like, I should have joined. And I almost joined. And then, I did it. But I needed to get an age waiver to join.
Okay.
And, that was like a 6-month process. During that delay, the Army went from 14 weeks to 22. So you're in the same bay with the same dudes, with the same drill sergeants for 22 weeks of your life. It's a long time. And I remember my recruiter called me up. He's like, dude, like, this thing is now 22 weeks. Like, it went from 14 to 22. And he's like, I understand, like, if you don't want to do it, like, you know, you tried. Sure. I'm like, bro, like, and a buddy of mine who was a Navy guy, he served in the SEAL teams, was a state assembly member. When I got denied to join at 36, I called my buddy. I'm like, dude, like, what do you know about this? Like, I got denied because of my age. He's like, look, there's a process. I'm sure I can find out about it for you. I'll make any call I can make, but if you get in, you're going. Like, this isn't some vanity, like, oh, hey, Luna tried. Like, haha, he's 36 and he tried. Right. And that's a dude who, special operations guy, like, left his family a dozen times over the course of the last 20 years to go kill bad guys while I was hanging out at the beach, you know, I never forget when the recruiter called me and he was saying that. I'm like, dude, if I let Ryan down, like, to screw me, like, that's my, and that was just a verbal thing between me and him, you know, between me and Ryan, and I could have very easily told that recruiter, yeah, you know what, man, let's just tell everybody, like, hey, I couldn't get in because of his age, like. And I could have been, you know, recruiters will work with you at that point. And
yeah, definitely.
I was just like, dude, I'm going. Like, all right, cool. But that 22 weeks, so it was like that 6-month period of just you're with these guys literally 24
every day,
through their breakups, through their family members dying, through their birth of their kids that they didn't get to see. And, you know, I remember we had a kid from Guam who I think his kid was getting born, and we were going to be done in like 3 weeks, but we were basically done at that point already. And we had like a very senior level enlisted guy coming to talk to our group at at the end. And it was a sergeant major, I think, if I remember correctly. I told the kid from Guam, I said, look, this guy at the end is probably going to ask if anybody has any questions or issues. I said, raise your damn hand. Tell this guy your kid's going to be born in 2 weeks and you want to be there for it.
Right.
He's like, nah, Luna, I can't do that. I said, bro, do it. you're done. We're done here. Like, we've done everything we need to do. At this point, you're just kind of waiting to get out processing and return your equipment and stuff. And dude, I remember that kid raised his hand at the end. The sergeant major's like, "Hey, anybody have any questions?" And that kid's like, first hand up was his, and he said it. Dude, that sergeant major pulled his ass aside and said, "Look, kid, I'm getting you home for the birth of your child."
That's fucking awesome.
Dude, exactly. And like that guy, man, I wish I knew his name, but like, it's stuff like that, a little maturity helps, and giving that kid a little confidence to be like, yo, man,
right.
Like, you got to talk to this guy like man to man. Like, he knows we're all done at this point. Like,
yeah,
and
dude, I love hearing stories like that because there's so many stories where it goes the other way. Because I mean, how many times have you been in situations where somebody asks questions like that, and then the E6 standing in the back of the room walks up, taps him on the shoulder, pulls him out, and then that's it. And maybe he's in trouble now for asking you're trying to jump the chain. Ask the sergeant major if you can get out of here. I could just seen that go 100 different ways. And it's so awesome when you hear stuff like that, especially with senior leaders. Because, I mean, what's the thing that people complain about a lot is, they're out of touch. And clearly that guy is not out of touch when he's, they're going out of his way to, really not even going out of his way, doing his job and helping that guy and get home. I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, man, that was cool. But yeah, Brandon, and that, just you see the military and you see basic training or whatever your unit is, and you kind of look around and you're like, man, I don't know that I would drink a beer with this guy, but I'll tell you what, I'd go to war with him. And that's the part of all of it that I think is missing from just like the regular world. It's we've let these differences or perceived differences kind of. You can see it on Facebook even. These perceived differences have like destroyed the culture of destroy our communities and presidential election coming up in freaking 3 weeks. I mean, I can't wait till that thing's over. Because it's just. The level, Trump literally got shot.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's insanity. Like that, like, we're living in a world where that happened. I mean, this is the United States of America, and that happened. But the military is a great proving ground for so much of the good and bad of our society, and working together is just one of those things that it's funny how. Like you said, man, you're working with this kid from Compton and this kid from Kentucky, and you're just like, bro, these two guys will never, ever. Right. There is no planet that these two guys should be working on this thing together. But they are.
They do. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, it's so true. Just you see some of the goofiest friend groups in the military.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, you got the kids who grew up in Compton and the hillbillies from West Virginia, and then the city kid from Chicago hanging out together. And you fuck with one of them, and the rest of them are gonna beat that dude's ass. It's just the way it is, man. And I like that you said that because I think it is a piece that's missing from society, especially like our modern society, is just how much it like you said, it's a proving ground. You spend time working with people like that, and not only do you gain skill and like a certain level of maturity from doing these sorts of things, but you learn to look at people differently. And then even more when you get the opportunity to deploy and you go see countries that aren't as well off as the United States, you really start to understand just how lucky you are to be born in the United States and to be an American. And for most people, it develops a stronger sense of appreciation for what you have. And then, even more, spurning that like desire to help other people, like you're talking about, to lift everybody, other people up. And so like we talk about on the podcast, like I don't think everybody should have to serve in the military, but I do think that there should be some sort of community service aspect to it, to where everybody can get that sort of same experience where you get to buy in because your time is invested into doing something, whatever it was, whether it's helping build bridges, repair roads, whatever it is that you got to do for your community for a portion of your life, but you're doing it with other people. So now you've got a shared experience, you've got shared community involvement and investment in making things better. And you sort of walk away to the same experience that a lot of military members do, where you understand what community means, you understand how much you can get done when you work together, you can understand to look past people's differences and start to just see people for who they are, and understand that a lot better. I just think that there is so much that is good in that way, that as an American society, we have just totally lost the plot on. I mean, it probably will never happen to have some sort of civil corps like that. That when you're out of high school, you got a couple years, like some countries do, between like 18 to 22, you got to go do 3 years of Civil Corps community service type of thing, or you could join the military. But I think something like that, exposing everybody to it, would be amazing. And just make the United States a better place, because people then now have that buy-in to making the country better because you spent time doing it.
And I think encouraging volunteerism, and I think that's where, to me, I think whether. I think some companies today, like in the corporate world, they have like that volunteer time off, and they encourage you as a organization to, hey, go around the holidays, go volunteer at your local food pantry or whatever it is. Like, I think it comes back to what we talked about a little bit ago. Like, when we are not thinking about us, ourselves, I genuinely believe that is when we are at our best. And that's where I think the tribalism of politics today in the United States, and it's nothing new, man. Like, that's the thing. Like, everyone thinks this isn't new. This isn't a Trump versus Harris thing. Like, this goes back to Abraham Lincoln. You know what I mean? Like, before that, it's like,
for sure,
it's the way, the tone of it is a little concerning to me, I think, now, and just the social media magnification, I think, is a big part of it. The people who spend a tremendous amount of time on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, just by the things they're talking about. And I see it in sports. Like, I go on Twitter after a Yankee game in July where they lost like 7-6, and it's like, oh, fire the manager. It's like, dude, like,
right.
Yankees are not going to go 162-0. Like, they're going to lose a couple games. That guy out there who's throwing games. Yeah, like, it's that guy out there who's pitching. Guess what? He's got this thing. He's called a human. He may not be able to throw that 98-mile-an-hour fastball in the exact spot he wants to every time.
Right. And swapping people out, in the dugout isn't just going to magically make things happen either.
Yep. So, I mean, it's just the fact that we're human, and the people condition, and the reality that Donald Trump every day isn't going to have a good day, and he's going to say some things that are crazy. And Vice President Harris, I'm sure if you sat down and had a cup of coffee with her and you talked about her family and your family, you'd probably have a lot more in common than you would ever imagine. The same thing where the people who hate Donald Trump now, by the way, loved him 15 years ago. Cashing his checks in politics for a generation.
It is. I saw a video of him on his interview with The View from a long time ago, and those girls definitely don't like him now. It's just kind of funny how quickly all that's changed, like you said.
Yeah, and I think that's just, again, the craziness of politics, and I'm looking forward to this next few weeks getting over, and hopefully look, I'm a Republican guy. I'm hoping the Republican wins.
For sure.
There's no doubt in my mind that the country would be heading in a better direction. But I don't want to espouse my beliefs on anybody. But the one thing that keeps coming back to, like, that stuff that happened at Abbey Gate. Those Marines, and
Sailors,
I mean, they really, man, that was a bad few weeks in our country's history, and
yeah, dude, I've said this so many times on this podcast that, again, like, to go back to watching 9/11 happen, and if I were to go back in time and tell 14-year-old me and show him a video of how we left Afghanistan and what happened at Abbey Gate, I would not believe it, because remembering what it felt like on September 12th and then watching how this ended is so, like, the delta between those things is so wide. It's like a galaxy apart. And it was, for a lot of people, not just, and you didn't even have to serve, I think, to feel this level of, like, just gutted when that happened. So many people our age and older who watched 9/11 happen, and then remember when we went into Afghanistan, and remember when we went to Iraq and started seeing the reports of American soldiers dying there, like, and just the the heartfelt emotions you felt right after that, and then through this process, remembering this 20 years was because of this one event. To see it in that way was gutting, and just so disappointing. I can't believe it. Like, it is. You have to honestly try to think hard about it to just grasp the the gravitas of that's how we left after 9/11. It's insane. It is insane. It's one of the worst days in our country's history, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that whole process.
And it's interesting, man. Like, and this just goes to the tenor of politics. There, I work with someone who is definitely a left leaning individual.
Sure.
And we just decided like a while back, like, hey man, we just ain't talking politics. Like, I love you, mean it. You're a great person inside and out, but we cannot talk politics. And one day this summer we did, and I was bringing that up, and like, bro, like her and I both started getting irrational.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I understand where she was coming from. I listened to her, and she listened to me, and we couldn't get there. We couldn't agree on something as simple as that. And again, I think I'm 1,000% right. She thinks she's 1,000% right. Like, genuinely believe there's a respect there for each other, and that just shows you the schism in politics today.
For sure.
Like that an issue like that, and how that happened, and why that happened that day, and like Vice President Harris was the last person in the room, right, with President Biden when those decisions were made, and like, there's got to be some level of accountability to that. And
agreed. And that would be the military, and you thinking that way, that the buck stops there with the leader.
Yeah, and bro, I mean, you see some of the memes about it, but like, you remember, like, if somebody was missing their freaking PT jacket.
Right.
Right. Bro, everybody
bring
would
the
stop,
NCO
right?
over here,
Yeah, like, you're getting smoked if you lose your PT jacket or like your water canteen. Like, you're getting dropped for that. And we left, like, I don't want to say billions because I don't know if that's a number, but we left a lot of equipment over there that the Taliban are now parading through the streets. I mean, it's like, that to me is just like, that is such gross negligence on so many different levels.
Dude,
to allow that to happen, and there.
Dude, I've had to get online and look for somebody's restricted area badge for hours before, right? Or a missing round, God forbid, right?
Yeah,
but to your point, we'll leave canines there, we'll leave, vehicles there, we'll leave weapon systems there. We took the firing pins or whatever. It's like, still, bro, like,
you get them?
Fucking It's just, it's so insane, and it is the exact opposite of what gets preached to us at that tactical or operational level, where you're getting preached about weapons accountability and taking care of your gear and all this shit, man. It's just the exact opposite, and to us it's just so blatantly obvious, like what you said, that the hypocrisy is systemic now. This isn't just a one-off. I mean, this is now the MO you come to expect from that level of governance, and it's just a shame.
Yeah, look, and whether it's that or the guy in the parking lot today who the system has failed, who's walking through a park. It's like, and that's not necessarily just a Democrat problem or Republican problem. I think that's a governmental problem. I think that
definitely
people are going to fall between the cracks in both administrations. I'll never be a guy who, oh, Donald Trump does everything right. I mean, if Donald Trump was dating your sister, you wouldn't like Donald Trump. I'll tell you that.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But that's the truth. And if he was dating my sister, I wouldn't be too happy for her. Like, it's again, it doesn't. It's just we have a binary choice coming up in a few weeks, and that's what it is. So, I think getting away from all of that, and that's why I try to so hyper focus on the local stuff going on around me, the food banks, the guys like at Ma Deuce Deuce who are helping out that divorced veteran, make sure he's not sleeping on a floor and he's got a couch. There was a veteran, a widow of a veteran who had some kid in the neighborhood. Probably there was a sign that she had made up in front of her house, in memory of her loved one, and somebody stole it. Again, dude, probably some dumb kid. These guys at Ma Deuce Deuce had a new sign made up for that lady, before she probably even woke up the next day. They heard
Right.
about it. They jumped to action. They found somebody who could make the sign. They made it even better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I just try to hyper focus on what's going on around me, like right here, and what I can do to make a difference. And I know you're going to be a dad soon, right? Like that's.
Oh, that'll be my third kid coming up.
Oh, that's your third. Oh, wow. All right.
Yep.
Here you go, man.
Yeah,
You're
man.
gonna be
No, I
busy.
see it. Yeah, oh yeah. But I mean, you're right, dude. Like when you say it like that, imagine if everybody thought that way, where you just sort of looked at these small circles around you and worked out. Even on the surface, you ask somebody, I guarantee you, most people could tell you national level politicians before they could tell you who sits on their kid's school board,
Sure.
or who, and it's just, I don't know if that's a social media or like a mainstream media thing, because we do talk so much like national politics. It's kind of in your face rather than like the little politics. But it is, man. You find what you can do where you're at. That's the whole notion behind that Jordan Peterson likes to say, clean your room. Like that's your room, Work on your family. Go meet your neighbors. This is something that we talk about on the podcast too, Go introduce yourself to these people. Understand how you can help one another. Like, oh, this guy's got a ham radio. Oh my gosh, this guy knows how to grow food. This dude is, whatever. Right? You understand. You at least learn people's names and introduce yourself to them. And that's sort of what you're supposed. I mean, that is what you're supposed to do. I know. I mean, and this might be a little different because I grew up on base, right? And I was a military brat my whole life. But my dad definitely knew everybody around, and
Sure.
and obviously it's you don't know everybody in the military. Even you don't work with everybody in your neighborhood, but he still made an effort to do that. Had me going and helping the pilot across the street who had nothing but girls when he was flying all the time. And what was I doing in middle school? Cutting the grass for him.
Yep. Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. I mean, it just is like, that's what you're supposed to do. And I think Americans have now gotten to the point where we are making the mistake of looking at government as the solution when there are so many problems we can handle ourselves. And people don't understand that the more the government has its hands in what goes on in your life, the less freedom you have. And taking that responsibility, like what you're talking about, and doing what you can where you're at with what you have, is freedom. It's that sovereignty. It's not just what can I do, it's what ought I do.
And Brandon, and the other part of that, like, helping others helps me. And at the end of the day, like, it's if you boil it down to that most selfish aspect of like getting in the mix with a food bank, bro. Every Wednesday when I take my lunch break and I go help those guys, again, I miss Wednesdays here and there, but for the most part, like, I'm dialed into that. Like, and it's an hour, 90 minutes of my Wednesday. I meet them at a certain part every single time.
Yeah.
I know, they know me, I know them. Like, but like, bro, every time I leave that, do you know how good I feel?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, do you know how, now, I felt actually a little melancholy today after I was like, man, like, this kid is leaving this conversation, going to move his stuff in the woods to another spot in the woods. But that 5-minute conversation he had with us in the parking lot, that today, maybe the only 5 minutes today he felt like a human.
Sure.
Like, where he didn't think I was looking at him like, get out of here. Like, made sure he had a couple extra sodas and some donuts in his pocket, in his bags, whatever it is. Like, and that's it. You feel good when you do things to help other people. And even if that's the only reason you do it, then do it. Like, that's cool.
Absolutely.
Like, everyone's going to be volunteering for the freaking food bank around Thanksgiving, and they're going to feel great after. Like, all right, cool. Like, do it 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. Do it again. Instead of sitting on your couch watching Fox News or MSNBC all night for 4 hours, tearing each other apart, reinforcing whatever beliefs are in your mind.
Yeah.
Like, dude, find a local pantry that needs help stocking the shelves at night. You know what I mean?
And
like,
that's it, man.
Again,
it's what I was saying.
You sound preachy. Like, I sound preachy. I didn't mean to say you sound preachy. I sound preachy.
I think that there's not enough of this message that happens, even like parent to child, getting your kids involved with stuff. And I think, again, like, starting where you're at, like, that's where these conversations need to happen. They need to happen with your kids, and, sort of not make it a novel thing that you do it, but it is just part of what you do as an American, you know? And it's just, I love when we were on the phone yesterday, you said something to me that I thought was really cool, and I liked it. You said that you like to, I actually kind of paraphrase what you said. I'm kind of reading my notes on it. You said that you try to think back to before there was all this divisiveness in our country, and it really, you know, it got worse in 2016. You know, let's be real, right? Yeah. That you try to readjust your perspective to before that and look at people that way. And I really like that because there are so many ways that you can look at anybody and try to find a political lens to judge them through. But you said it that way, and I thought it was profound, honestly, because there's not a lot of people out there today that try to think that way and actually make an effort to think that way, you know, and I love that. I love that you said that, and I think that's a great message for people to just remember we're all same team, you know, we're all Americans. And I like that you said that a lot.
And Brandon, look, I appreciate you saying that because I don't often in my life hear somebody say something I said was profound. So that's like a huge score.
I mean, it is.
This is recorded, right? Because I'm going to make sure my girl listens to this part where we're at minute 55.
I got you here. I'll clip it. I'll put it up on Instagram, and that way you can put it on your page too, man. You know,
hell yeah, dude! I'm going to share the hell out of that one.
Got it.
But you know, and I think part of why I think that way is, and I want to come back to what you were saying about the kids too, because I think that's that's it. Like, that's such a key component to all this. But I worked for a Republican in a district that President Obama won twice.
Okay.
So he was a pretty, you know, he was anything you would call a conservative guy, you know, pro-life, you know, traditional in so many senses, you know, voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
Sure.
You know, all those things that, like, you would say a Republican is.
Yeah.
Was able to win in a district Obama won twice. In his second campaign, he won by 20 percentage points.
Wow.
In a district that Barack Obama won twice. That's profound. Like, that is wild. Like, that is an incredible job that the campaign did, that he did, that, you know, he got to Washington, he worked with Democrats on issues like the Joint Base and, you know, food insecurity, and just there's a local hospital that, like, he helped save, like, just all these things like that, like, you want your politicians doing.
Yeah.
When Trump got elected, the vitriol I saw coming our way, to the point that the death threats that we were getting, the young women who worked in our office were being followed around with people with cameras, interviewed against their will. Things that if I wasn't in public life and I saw happening on the street, like, I would physically intervene in. You know, like, you see a grown man following a 22-year-old in a skirt, walking around asking him questions. Like, you're going to physically get involved in that situation.
Oh, yeah, you can tell. Yeah.
Like, it's... And I just saw it, man. I saw the switch that day, and I'm like, this is scary. Like, I had people writing my parents letters. I didn't live with my parents in 15 years, and they're writing my parents letters telling them they shouldn't be proud of me and that I'm a disgrace to our country because I'm working for this guy. And I'm like, man,
it's insane.
Bro, 2 years ago, this guy, like, was walking on water, this congressman. And, like, literally saving a local hospital, and literally the reason the Joint Base, McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, was getting additional missions on the KC-10, your Air Force guy. Like, you remember KC-10s and KC-46s? Like, dude, we were intimately involved in that, the changeover to the new plane. Like,
the last one just left Travis a couple weeks ago.
Yes. That was something I literally was working on with a member of Congress, you know, the 9/11 Ground Zero Memorial. We did a ton of work to make sure that became, and again, some of this stuff I've rolled around in the policy of it for decades, so, you know, I vaguely remember, but, like, you know, we were involved in the 9/11 Memorial being, like, getting extra funding for security. Like, dude, that's real stuff.
Yeah.
Trump gets elected, and it's like people screaming at us on the phone about something he tweeted.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, like I don't have time for this. Like we got a family in here whose house burned down that needs help with getting the medals of their grandfather who died. You know, like who was in
Right.
World War II. Like, you know, we're working on Social Security claims, and then you know, so you get that's to me is just so in my mind of like, dude, go back to pre-Trump and like let's like get back to that a little bit, you know, and you know, so. And
Yeah,
look, Trump fans are not perfect. I mean, obviously,
Definitely not.
Wild stuff happens, but you know, you mentioned the kids, and Brandon, congrats on being a father for the third time soon. And
Appreciate
you know,
it.
I never had my own children. You know, I'm 41, never married, no kids, but I'm dating someone who has 2 children who are 10 and 8.
Nice.
And I've been in their lives for about 5 years, and you know, I'm very active in their lives, and they're 2 great children. And shout out to the single moms. Like I was raised by 2 parents. I don't know you were raised by 2 parents. Yeah, bro. Shout out to single moms, man. Like watching what they go through, and is just insane. But you know, Jill's kids, they come with us on the food truck. She's had them volunteering in stuff in the past, and they have a birthday coming up December 7th. As part of the birthday party, we had a conversation with them like, hey, we think that you guys have a lot of stuff. I'm looking at a PS5 right now, a guitar, you know.
Sure.
Instead of presents, why don't you guys pick an organization that we can ask people to bring donations for? To your birthday. We're doing a joint birthday party because our birthdays are a month apart and it's just easier. And her son, who's younger, was kind of like, well, what do you mean I'm not going to get any presents? I said, no, but you're going to, first of all, you're going to get presents from us, but like,
Right.
you're going to tell all your friends, like, you want to support people on the food truck. Oh, like, it clicked for him. You know, because he's been on the food truck. He's volunteered. He knows the dog's name at the Chalet Motel. Like, he knows that stuff. And again, I'm not saying we're parents of the year, but these kids at 10 and 8 know, like, all right, my birthday party's not going to be about just me. We're going to and her daughter wanted to get stuff for the animal shelter. You know, so like that's cool. That's good stuff. You know, and you mentioned the kids. Like again, we're not perfect. Who the hell is as a parent? You know.
Yeah, definitely not, man.
Bro, Brandon. Right at the end of the night, sometimes you're like, "Yo, how do I make it through that day?"
That dad shame, and you get on the couch, dude. You're like, shit. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how did I make it through today without like?
Oh yeah.
You know. Yeah. So
yeah.
you know,
second guessing your decisions, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, man, and like you know, it's so. But yeah, I mean, it's just a. I think there's so much can be done if we have conversations like this, and you know, if we're focused on ourselves and we're getting better every day, and we're you know the health stuff that we kind of kicked off talking about, like you know all those things, man. Like if you can dial in and be happy with who you are, a lot of times you're gonna be happy with the people around you. Like that's just
definitely.
It's
so funny because you can take a lot of what we've talked about and then like push it through all these different lenses, right? Like you said, you can't love somebody else unless you love yourself, right? And it's a common thing, you know. You can't take care of your country if you can't take care of the things closest to you. You can't love your neighborhood. You can't love your neighbor. You can't love the small community you have. You need to learn it. You need to understand it. Get yourself involved. You know, so much of a lot of what people complain about is because so many people took their hands off the wheel a long time ago and just let the bureaucracy do its thing, you know. And so it's just there's so many different ways that you can look at this and say, like, you know, just simply paying attention, being proactive and less reactive, and learning about the people that you know that make decisions for you, learning about the people in your neighborhood and how you can help one another out. It's like all these different things. If we all started doing them, like that's how you fix the country. It's not, oh well, we need to, you know, how government help us out, fix this problem. It's like, no, man, like do it where you're at. Get other people to understand that that's the point. Get to understand one another. Push past all this bullshit that the mainstream media wants us to think about each other. Because how it's scary, like you said, like the instant swap that happened with the politician that you were talking about, just overnight because of one person, just so quickly how people change their thoughts and opinions. You know. It makes me think of the whole like live like 9/12, you know, the day after 9/11, like because we do. I mean, everybody, there's just a sense of patriotism and love for your neighbor, your country, all that stuff that happened. Like, I think that what we're talking about is how you foster and build that and then sustain it, you know. And then as a parent, right, what sort of America do you want your kids to grow up in? What sort of America do you want to hand off to them? And what sort of America do you want to help build for them to be able to hand off to their kids? It's just these are questions you should be asking yourself as an American. We are so fortunate to be here in this country. You can't let stupid crap on the news just blow us up and tear us apart. It's just crazy and sucks to see it happen, because it happens every single day. But it begins with these conversations with people, and it begins with doing things at your level where you can do them. That's how you fix the problem. Like, the solution is you, not the government.
Yeah, man. And a lot of times too, like, the problem may not be the problem,
Right.
and that's like how many times in my own personal life where it's like, dude, I have this problem, I got this thing going on. Well, it may be an opportunity, and that
Sure.
that too is like I lost a job in politics in 2013, I think 12, I think it was 13,
Right.
and I'm like, man, that's it, my career's over. I didn't do anything bad. Like, it wasn't working out, Sure. I was it just kind of wasn't working out for them and me, and I never forget, like, after that, like, I went and worked at a bar on the boardwalk in New Jersey that summer. Bro, dude, that summer working at a bar when I was like 28, and not to party, like, I'm not a drinker. Like, I don't drink. I used to when I was a young guy. As I gotten older, I stopped drinking.
Yeah.
And never went to rehab, never got arrested. But I'll tell you what, like, I didn't want to.
For sure, man. Yeah, hell no.
So, I knew a lot of guys who, as they got older and kept partying hard, that those things were inevitable,
Yeah.
So, it wasn't because of the party aspect. It was because I was back doing things that were fun again, like riding my bicycle and going to work outside. And, dude, like that, Brandon, the past, that was 2013, the past 11 years of my life, like, I remember there was a night, I was a little broke, and I was washing dishes at this place in Convention Hall in Asbury Park, and I'm washing dishes. I was more waiting tables and doing security at this place, but that night I ended up washing some dishes for a while, whatever, I forget what the hell why. And I'm like, man, this is as low as it gets, right? I'm a 28-year-old guy, I got an apron on, a white t-shirt,
Yeah.
and I'm like using the handle thing. I'm washing dishes. Like, I'm like, they're, right? Like, that's it. Like, that's real shit, bro. Like, you're washing dishes in a restaurant at 28 years old. That's real stuff.
For sure.
Brandon, I kid you not, probably about 8 to 10 years, now 2 years ago, whatever it was, do you know I held an event at that venue with the manager of the New York Yankees?
Wow.
I went from washing dishes in the back of the restaurant to, like, 8-10 years later, booking an event with the manager of the New York Yankees, executing an event with the manager of the New York Yankees, making sure everybody got paid at the end, which is a very important part of anything.
No doubt.
I didn't know anybody about him the next morning. We looped in the Asbury Park Little League, which is, a community that has certainly had its challenges socioeconomically, and, it's a very diverse community. Dozens of local Asbury Park Little League kids got to come to that event for free, meet the manager of the New York Yankees. The restaurant that night had 300 people in it that never would have been there. Those servers made more money that night than they would have on a cold Friday in February. And, like, when I was washing those dishes in my mind, it's like, bro, this is a challenge. Like, this is bad. Like, this shit is bad right now. Like, this is not good.
Right.
I'm washing dishes in a restaurant. And, like, years later, I'm, like, with the manager of the New York Yankees at that place.
Yeah.
Like, and he knew my name. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he knew me. Like, that. He was there because I booked the event. Like, made it happen for him to come there. Like, bro, like,
that's it.
Wrap
man.
your head
That's,
around that. Like,
right. But that's America, dude. It really is, dude.
Yeah.
How quickly that can happen, that change, that you can have that sort of upward mobility, if you want to call it that, in such a small period of time. And there you are, I know, and there's a lot of effort on your part that goes into all of that, but it is, dude. You just have the ability in this country to make moves like that and then have a life that way, and then to have the opportunity to say, like, I helped this group of people and was a part of this situation for these kids, the restaurant workers, like you said, because you brought in all these people, and you took care of people, and that's kind of it, dude. You have that. That spirit about you to take up the mantle for others and then help them out. It's just, how great of a world would it be if more people really just took the time to do these sorts of things, and you sit here and preach about it all night, like you were saying, but like it's just simply true, man. Like, humans helping humans is never a lose-lose, dude. Like, it's just not.
It's not, right. And that's like, that's why, like, even today, like a couple years into like the whole thing with these, working with some different professional athletes, and it's never lost on me that, like, the stuff I'm doing with them on these events and some marketing deals, and like when I look at my phone and it's a text message from a guy on the New York Yankees, like I hope, number one, I hope that never gets old to me. There's a lot of guys who've been doing this stuff for a long time, and that may get old. I hope it never gets old to me. But, at the same time, too, like, what am I doing with that? Like, what am I doing with that access? What am I doing with that opportunity? And, like, am I spinning it? Am I trying to make the extra $500 for me? Am I making sure the player's taken care of correctly? Am I, hey, man, look, we could do – we did something with the Covenant House with this kid, Oswaldo Cabrera. He's a young guy in the Yankees. I met him a little bit after his rookie season, and we've done a bunch of work over the past couple years. Brandon, this is a kid. He's like 25, professional baseball player for the New York Yankees. I've never met another human being like with this guy's heart, and we did an event, and I think, the next day we had a couple hours in his schedule before he had to leave for an airport. And he knows the work that I do with this group called Covenant House, which provides shelter and programming for teenagers who are homeless. As they kind of age out of that like young teen opportunity. And I never forget this guy. I'm a partner in a gym, and we're sitting at the gym. He just wrapped up an event. I say, hey, Ozzy, we have a couple hours tomorrow morning. We can go visit the kids at Covenant House. Like, I'll go get them some stockings. I'll throw some candy in it. It'd be like a cool thing that a New York Yankee goes and visits some kids who are homeless. And he looks at me, he's like, my man, and he says it in this, his best English as he can as a kid who grew up in Venezuela, and he says, my man, take this, buy them presents from Ozzy. It was $1,000 cash. And like, dude, I hope I never forget that, and I don't say that to like make the guy look good on the internet. I say it because
like saying,
like that was a time where that guy could have been like, all right, man, like I want to sleep in with my girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why I just really try to surround myself with people who are doing these things and think like that. And the fact that when I was 25, I had $1,000 cash in my pocket. First of all, I probably wouldn't have never had $1,000 cash
right,
at that age, right? Like, you're not making it. I'm not making it with $1,000. But like, to be like, dude, like, take this and go buy them stuff from me. Not, yo, man, make sure you get them some stuff and make sure I look good.
Yeah.
It was, yo, this is from me.
Yep.
Counting 10 hundreds out, and handing them to me. And that night, I'm like in a Walgreens buying a bunch of Uber and ShopRite gift cards for these, teenagers who were homeless not that long ago. And they have a New York Yankee in their living room, freaking handing them stockings and gift cards. And like, dude, that's it, bro. Like, that's living.
That's awesome.
Like, that is what it's about for me.
That has to be just so surreal to provide that level of happiness to somebody.
Yeah, and it is, but I think too, like, and obviously a New York Yankee doing that, it adds a level. But I think some people think that you need it to be that for it to be special. It doesn't. Sure. If I was standing there with those 8 or 10 stockings filled with Uber gift cards and candy, like, those at that point, those kids are probably just happy somebody's thinking of them.
Definitely.
Because you don't become a homeless teenager through good circumstances. Like, there's a lot of bad things and a lot of failures throughout your whole life.
Down.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, dude, the stories you hear of that group, the Covenant House, what they do, man, like, they're very involved in human trafficking. Working with the survivors of human trafficking and making sure that there's interdiction teams, and interdiction is probably the wrong word. That they're
intervention.
Yeah, yep, that they're grabbing those kids as soon as they're found by law enforcement. They're making sure that they're getting right into programming instead of, like, released into the wilderness, but yeah, man, like, it's, and the fact that that's a thing, like human trafficking, gosh, that is just the most vile freaking.
Yeah. Dude, not to like jump down like too crazy of the rabbit hole on this, but like I watched a video from a 60 Minutes special recently where there were older kids essentially walking down like a runway, right? Like a fashion runway, advertising themselves for a group of adults who were looking to adopt older kids. And this is essentially like it's like a marketplace for kids who are homeless and are in bad situations. And just adults show up and they take notes on these kids. It was like the most, I shared it on my story today. It was like one of the most disgusting and creepy and scary things I've ever seen, like in my life. Like it just screams human trafficking and other terrible things, and it just like to watch these kids model themselves essentially, or they're playing piano to show that they're talented, is just like heartbreaking. It's like, please love me because I can play the piano and I
play a tryout to be loved.
It's a tryout to be, loved, right?
Or
Which
whatever.
is, it just is fucking terrible, dude. Like, I can't even believe, like, how far have our morals and ethics of a country fallen that we have things like this that exist, It's just, it's crazy, and it's depraved on levels, I feel, but just it's sad at the end of the day, that these kids have to do something like that just to try to find a couple of adults willing to take care of them and show them, love and care and emotion. It's just positive emotion. It's just fucking nuts.
Yeah, and dude, at the end of the day, too, it's just like, man, like, there's a lot of bad in the world, there's a lot of good in the world, and that's where I know it sounds stupid, but, like, I just keep coming back to, like, hey, man, like, what's going on around me, like, who needs help in this area, and what can I do to better a situation? And bro, I ain't perfect. I could write my imperfections and fill up a roll of toilet paper. Like, trust me, I'm not perfect. I'm not a preacher. I'm nothing. I'm just a guy who has had some experiences in life, and part of that was being in the military at 36. And dude, you mentioned being deployed. Like, my unit, when I enlisted, I basically made a decision I was going to do 3 years. Like, dude, I was 36, went in as an E4. Just never really had the opportunity to rank. Become an NCO over the course of my time in. And kind of when I enlisted, I'm like, you know what, dude, I'm probably just going to do this 3 years. And I was National Guard, Army infantry guy. Like, we did the January 6th thing, which we don't even need to go into that conversation, but I know we can another day, whatever. But my guys right now, my unit is deployed, and they're in the Middle East. And obviously I'm not there because I got out after my 3 years, and that was like a year or two ago, whatever, before the deployment. And like, dude, these guys are like taking activity from drones. Like, some of them, a handful of guys got hurt in a drone attack.
Yeah. Dude, that's changing warfare, man.
Bro, and like,
these little $25 drones, dude.
Yeah, and I want to complain about like my coffee at Wawa.
Exactly, dude.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, you got these guys, like, a lot of stuff going on, man. Like, it's...
I know, dude. I was in Kenya, and, I got to go and spend some time in couple of these villages, and, like, they're literally houses put together with sticks and, like, twine, and these kids are walking down to the river to get food or to get water. It's just so nuts, dude. Like, just how lucky we are as Americans, and just the stupid trivial shit that we complain about, and then there's people on the other side of the world who have to walk to the river to go to the bathroom or get water, dude. Like, literally. And it's just it really does. That's kind of what I was getting at earlier, man. Like, the military can really change your absolute outlook on life and people in general. And then having something, that everybody should be able to, the volunteerism, like you said, and seeing people in your community, because you don't need to go on the other side of the world to see these things. You meet them in a ShopRite parking lot, right? And you see just how people live in our country when we have all this good that goes on, that people struggle. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. Not to like this is kind of like sidebar, but often makes me wonder about like the other great civilizations of the world. Like, did Romans have this conversation? It's like here in Rome, we've got water from the aqueducts that comes in, and all of this this riches from Gaul. Do it's just kind of funny if this is something that every empire goes through. This introspection that we're having about like how do we fix problems and help people when we have so much excess.
Probably.
Yeah, I know, right?
They're probably on some hieroglyphic thing in some
right,
some cave somewhere,
Latin,
dude. Like
talking to each other.
And you know what's funny, Brandon? Like, and I don't know if we're wrapping up here soon, but I'm close to needing to hit the sack myself.
Yeah, no, we can wrap up here in a second.
Yeah. No, but like, dude, isn't that like that conversation something you would happen like on the range in the military?
Yep,
like, bro,
exactly,
did Romans
dude.
used to do this shit? Like,
right. You're posted with somebody for 12 hours, did the conversations, especially when you get posted with the same cats for, maybe you got a 3-day weekend, you're working, 12s all day, every day in a row, or deployed where it's a 6-1 or not a day off, absolutely. You talk about literally everything. Yeah, man.
Did Romans, do you think the Romans like, did they have band? Like, dude, I know. It's, and that's what it's about, man. It's just.
Right. Did the Romans know their empire was falling? Do you think they saw that coming? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like.
It's funny. That's totally a E4 conversation,
Oh, hell yeah.
There,
exactly. I'm actually happy I never became an NCO, even though I do think, like, NCOs, especially, like, drill sergeants, are, like, the freaking, like, wildest, most. Dude, drill sergeants are they called instructors or what are they called in Air Force?
So the Air Force calls them training instructors.
Okay, but I mean, dude, like those people who like know the tasks inside and out the way that they do, and they learn their profession. Man, they're like, I was so impressed by the drill sergeants that I interacted with, just as I watched from like an older guy perspective, like just crazy talented people. I mean,
no, there are, man. The military is full of folks like that, dude. And it just goes to show you, too, the variety of people there are in the military and just how many of them are subject matter experts on something. Never count a veteran out, like, for sure.
Yeah, man. And that's, you mentioned the E4 thing. So, somebody had a joke. I'm probably butcher it, but it was something along the lines of, and I heard it a lot. I think one guy used to say it a lot, like, how do you know something in the Army needs to get done? And everybody kind of look around and be like, he's like, you can't find an E4 anywhere.
Right, exactly. It's the whole joke, dude. It's like, hey, I need 2 volunteers. You know what I mean, right?
Where the E4's at? Nowhere, dude. Yep.
Dude, I had one of my TIs, training instructors, just randomly asked a group of us one day, how many of you guys like donuts? A couple people rose their hand, and he's like, cool, I just needed 3 of you. Let's go. Just asked. That was how, instead of asking for volunteers, he just asked a random ass question. He, of course, like,
got the answer.
Fucking, 30 of the 50 of us rose our hands, so he just picked 3 of us. It's just kind of funny, dude, the creativity there, But man, tell where people can learn more about Smokeless Vets, and then that way people have the opportunity to go check it out and learn something.
Yeah, I mean, you look it up online, and I know there's a lot of different podcasts and a lot of groups that they're working with.
Definitely.
I don't want to say some of the associations, 'cause I don't know if they're out there yet, but I mean, look them up online and look at the opportunities and things that they're kind of working on to help people, veterans especially, quit smoking. They have really big goals, metrics that they're going to try to reach, ways they're going to get to those metrics, which I think is always very important. So, again, man, I'm not a paid spokesperson. I know a few of the guys who are involved in the organization, and when they connected us to, as a precipice to talk through just life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Obviously, I'm always happy to talk about things like that. That, as we talked yesterday, we know those veterans, especially like law enforcement. A lot of guys in law enforcement and gals in law enforcement working shit. And bro, look, a lot of people working at Walmart on shift work, smoking. Oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Dude. Like it's just like there are resources out there. I think if groups like Smokeless Vets can encourage the VA, push the VA to kind of look at their approach a little differently, I think that's a win for every veteran who's trying to quit smoking and get a little healthier.
Great point.
And like at the end of the day, like we shouldn't be cutting and limiting resources, just because there's one school of thought on, hey,
Definitely.
This is what they said 25 years ago would help people quit smoking. Well, dude, it ain't 25 years ago, as you very well know.
Know better, do better.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What a simple concept. That's profound. That's simple and profound. I have to say a lot more words and speak a lot longer to sound profound. You just spit it out like that.
Nah, man.
I'm jealous of that, man.
That's not a Brandon original. You know what I mean?
That's all right. It was tonight. It was a Brandon original to me.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, Frank,
it.
it was super awesome talking to you,
dude,
man.
I
And it's
appreciate
nice
you,
having
man.
these conversations. For sure, dude. And, thank you, everybody, for listening tonight. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys check out our sponsors, Kill Cliff, Protect, Skull and Crossbeans Coffee, Redefine Violence, and then the Light Sleeper. You can find those codes for discounts on all those awesome products in our show notes. So, Frank, thank you so much for talking to me, man, and
Thank
hope you have a good night.
Appreciate you. And I'm rooting for you and your family, man. I know you got a little one coming, another third one coming, man. That's living. I'm rooting for you guys for sure.
I appreciate that. Take it easy, man.
Later, brother.